Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the counselor's office. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor, and we are here for our pilot episode of ReAction Replay. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is our pilot, our first episode. I'm going to try to do an episodic thing where we play a video game and react. And today we are reacting to Legendary Drops as he talks about Warframe, but specifically live service, which unironically, we are playing live service. We're playing Destiny 2 currently. Now, the whole thought process of like the Logan Air thing is obviously based off Action Replay. For those of you nerds out there that are as old as I am, who used to have those back in the day for your Nintendo. There we are. I love Warframe, so I'm very interested to see what he has to say. This is going to be very interesting to try to multitask. So let's get into it.
Warframe is a wake-up call. Look, the phrases free-to-play and live service, whether by themselves or in combination with one another, don't fill players with a lot of confidence. And they shouldn't. Because they become synonymous with games and studios that are under-delivering on a product and service while asking for the absolute most from their audience.
And I think that's pretty true. Like, when you nowadays, when you hear something is a live service, it has a very negative connotation. Like, people are expecting a dumpster fire. They're expecting something bad. We've had too many games. Like, the most recent for some people is Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad has had nothing but like a negative reaction for a lot of people in the DC community and just gaming in general. And anytime something else comes out, that's exactly how people feel.
More time, more engagement, more money, extracting as much as they possibly can while putting in the least amount of effort. Warframe is the most well-known yet under-discussed and underappreciated games in all of gaming. It's often referred to as the internet's best-kept secret, and I'm tired of it being a secret.
I don't know about that. Chat, you've all heard about Warframe. You've heard some good stuff about Warframe, right? Like, 'cause I'll be honest, I've been playing Warframe for quite many years. Not since it's been out. Like, that's not been my thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if Warframe's been a secret. It's just a specific kind of game type. Like, obviously, a lot of people who play Destiny also play Warframe or have at least heard of it. Really, I mean, I don't know who is like surprised that Warframe's good. Like, it came out like, I wouldn't say as Destiny came out, but they've been around for a very long time. In fact, I would say Warframe has had a little bit more success than Destiny in the regards of the fact that they really haven't had any like drama, unless you consider certain things being nerfed that maybe the community liked. But outside of that, like, they didn't do any layoffs. They've consistently grown. Like, there's no Warframe 2. It's just been Warframe. So I don't know.
For all intents and purposes, Warframe is the blueprint by which many of these free-to-play games and live service games should be following, but they're not.
Oh, I agree.
It's a game that is tirelessly supported by its developer and by its community in a way that I don't even think any other game can even replicate. And once you guys hear about some of this stuff, it's going to blow your mind.
I hope he I'm going to pause real quick. I hope he touches on some of this stuff, just because there's a lot that Warframe does right that other live service games don't, like 343 and Bungie. Like, there's things that they don't do that the Warframe developers do. So I hope he talks about it. If not, then I'm going to make sure we get that in this video.
Free-to-play and live service is supposed to be a way for developers to be able to deliver a smaller product and grow it over time. Be able to deliver a valuable service, a valuable product, and grow it while the community supports it. And that's the kind of game that Warframe is. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Luckily, today's sponsor is actually the game that inspired Warframe. I've played World of Tanks multiple times over the years with my friends, and this is an easy suggestion
World of
to make.
Tanks inspired
World of Tanks is one of the longest-running free-to-play games on the market and has been actively supported
for over a decade now. By the way, I've seen a lot of people play
with over 100 million registered users, hundreds of tanks, tons of customization, high-fidelity graphics, incredible sound design, and hundreds of hours of gameplay. The extensive arsenal includes tank destroyers, artillery, light, medium, and heavy tanks, providing you with a wide range of options for different combat strategies. It's a free-to-play game that brings you massive battles with a huge variety of tanks. Whether you're charging in, guns blazing, or sneaking up on enemies, there's always a new way to play.
You love tanks,
and here's the
I guess.
best part. New players will get an amazing deal using the invite code Combat and a link in the description below. You'll get a Cromwell
there you go,
B Tier
chat.
6
Check out
British
Combat.
Premium tank, 250,000 credits, and 7 days of premium access.
No, but someone can let me know in the comments down below if you've actually played that game. I'm actually interested if it's like good or not.
Just use the link in the description below.
You see a lot of people advertising it, but you never know if it's good.
So what is Warframe? It's a looter shooter, live service MMO with a third-person perspective. You play as a Warframe, you're dashing through levels, taking down enemies, farming up materials, currency, and other items so that you can continue to build more weapons and more Warframes to use. Warframes vary in their looks and abilities. Some of them play like a ninja, others like a battering ram or even a wizard. There's even a frame that lets you...
You know, for someone that has never played this, the best way to explain Warframe is, like, if you play Destiny but you don't play Warframe, Warframe is Space Ninja, whereas Destiny is, like, to say crudely, is Space Wizard.
You create your own music so that you can buff other players. You have pets, ships, clans, PvP, personal housing, boss fights, a roguelike, a fighting game, open worlds, and more. It has consistently stayed in the top 20 of the most played games on Steam for over a decade now, and in doing that, there is something inherently special here.
Yeah, let's just take he mentions it. Let's take a note to say for sure that Warframe has been around for a long time. And to my acknowledgement, within that time, they haven't been like stressing about financials. Like they've done pretty good to stay afloat. Even like with with COVID and all the stuff that's going on, I'm already disinterested in this, so I'm just gonna leave this match. I'm so disinterested. It's so boring.
If we look at the game's player base on Steam, while it's not burning the world down with insane peaks, it's maintained its player base consistently since 2013, and it's only continued to grow. So how has Warframe maintained?
And that's a key thing, right? When you look at Warframe, Warframe is 100% a free-to-play game. And I mean, in all aspects, it is 100% free to play. Whereas games like Destiny here, they act like they're free to play, but it's more the appropriate term is free to try, because not everything in it is actually free. You have to pay for content such as expansions. You have to pay for dungeons. If it was just, even in like Warframe, you don't even have to. They have like a battle pass, but you don't pay for it. Like there's a lot of free things, and yes, you can spend money in the game. But hopefully he actually says something about it, and we'll talk more about it if he does.
In that success. Why is nobody talking about it? And unlike many other live service games, why aren't we hearing people complaining about it or how it mistreats its players? Well, to answer that, we need to understand the game's history, and that...
I just want to make it very clear. Those two ladies, hot. Rebecca and Megan, as developers, are hot. But not just in the way of looks, but also in like personality. Like I happen to know that they like to cosplay, at least Rebecca does. And that is dope. Like you have a developer that is nerdy and into the like high up developer. I think she's, I don't know, like I don't remember like specific role, but she's like a leader of DE, and she's involved in both the game and in cosplay. Like she's nerdy. Like, not like Pete on his yacht with 23, vehicles. Like, she is out there with the nerds. And, I mean, that's just hot. I'll just tell you right now.
Out of its creators. Now, you may recognize the name Digital Extremes, renowned for their early work on Unreal Tournament in partnership with Epic Games. They played a pivotal role in shaping the landscape of multiplayer first-person shooters. They were among the first to popularize key features like online multiplayer, power weapons,
I didn't realize it either.
Deathmatch, and capture the flag, laying the ground for many of the multiplayer games that we play today. After parting ways with Epic Games, as Epic went on to make Gears of War with Xbox Studios, they decided to pitch their own game idea, and they tried to do it for over a decade.
That's like the
game
beginner
was called
footage.
Dark Sector. They struggled to find a publisher for this dark sci-fi MMO concept that they had, and ultimately Digital Extremes was forced into doing work for hire just to be able to keep the company afloat. The decision to take on work-for-hire projects, while necessary for financial stability, came with its own difficulties. The studio faced a cycle of hiring employees for specific projects and then laying them off once that project concluded. This practice is commonplace for work-for-hire studios. However, it disrupted the lives of their employees and their families, a situation that the studio founder has regretted since then. He believed that publishers often lack...
Yeah, stop to think about that. They actually regret that. How many people have been laid off at other game companies, even live service games like 343, Bungie? How many of those people regret that? Probably not very many. And to be honest, some of us gamers out there, we're not regretting it either. But it's still crazy that, something that's happened years that they care about their team. And I think that is very important for making good games, is when you have a team that you care about, you respect them. And I think we're seeing a lot of developers not being respected. Whether you think they deserve it or not, you got to remember, a lot of these people working on games aren't the decision makers. They're told what to do, and they have to figure out how to do it. And often they get the blame. And so, as much as I would like to blame every developer for making a bad game or being stupid, you've got to think it's the people in charge that are forcing them to make certain decisions that they don't want to make.
A clear vision, and the Digital Extremes would have been better off just focusing on smaller, self-controlled projects, as seen with independent studios that tend to produce higher quality work when they're given full creative control. Despite the continuous efforts to pitch Dark Sector to publishers, the studio continued to face rejection, primarily due to a lack of interest when it came to sci-fi games on the side of publishers.
Which is crazy,
because somehow never even changed, even with...
Because Halo literally came out. Halo was literally the definition of sci-fi. So the fact that Halo was out and was one of the most popular games out there, we're like, no, we don't want sci-fi. You what? Hello? You what, mate?
The success of Halo. In a desperate move, Digital Extremes caved to a publisher's demands, shifting Dark Sector from a sci-fi MMO to a game that emulated the success of Resident Evil 4 at the time. This change involved transforming the protagonist from a space ninja to a CIA operative named Hayden Tenno, which strayed very far from the original concept. The new version of Dark Sector struggled to be able to find an audience. However, it eventually did and gained respectable reviews as well. After the release of Dark Sector, the industry started to trend away from AA releases to AAA games, and this made for more issues at Digital Extremes. The studio, which had previously worked on BioShock's multiplayer and The Darkness 2, found itself struggling to find any contracts as they began to dry up and publishers wanted to start making games in-house. Observing the success of free-to-play games like World of Tanks in 2010, Digital Extremes saw an opportunity in an emerging market. They didn't see free-to-play as a way to be able to milk players. They recognized and saw the potential to be able to create something smaller and grow the game over time.
Imagine that, chat. That is the mindset that people should have, and why, in general, a perfect example of this, why live service really isn't the devil. And I think when we hear live service, we think, oh God, here comes another failed game attempt. Here comes another cash grab. When the concept of a live service, you got to think of some good live services. There's plenty of games out there that meet the definition of live service that aren't bad. I do not think that live service games are bad. It's just the implementation and just the effort and quality put into them that makes a difference. And you take games like Warframe, that they actually take the time to improve the game and they don't make you spend your soul to really enjoy, where you get Destiny, where they get high highs and then they take a dump on your face and then you get garbage like Lightfall. And it's very baffling to me that companies don't realize if they made good live service games, people probably would spend more money in microtransactions. But it is how it is. We see how games live and breathe or die based on the quality of the game.
Rather than trying to pursue a traditional release. Facing imminent financial collapse with only 12 months of funds remaining, Digital Extremes decided to pursue a long-held vision for what used to be Dark Sector, and then was now codenamed Lotus. Within 2 months, they developed a working demo featuring spaceship raids and procedurally generated loot and layouts with an emphasis on co-op and PvE gameplay, recognizing there was a gap in the market. They approached free-to-play publishers asking for support, but they were getting rejected yet again. Undeterred, Digital Extremes decided to self-fund the project with only 9 months of funds remaining.
Wow.
Wanting to give it their all rather than simply just walk away. The development of the alpha version of the game saw...
I'm telling you, Rebecca, hot. Yes, that's my inner nerd, my inner nerd, but she's so hot. She's still hot.
Significant involvement from Rebecca Ford, an intern who led the creation of their community team. This team was crucial in gathering and responding to player feedback, a strategy that helped shape the game's development and ultimately
I just got Mario'd by my teammate.
Embracing the success of Kickstarter campaigns that were going on at the time, Digital Extremes introduced supporter packs to raise additional funds. This approach, while initially slow, proved ultimately effective and demonstrated that there was an audience for their game. Thus,
I would just want to make a mention. I wish more games would come out and it's like, hey, we're releasing this game. It's early access. I don't mind early access games. Hey, this is going to be live service. It's early access. We're going to do starter, founder packs. We are trying to grow this game. We are going to be very transparent with you. We need money. So that's why we're having these founder packs, because we need your support. And I think if they would just like come out and do that, people would be more willing to support a game. Like they would feel like, hey, you're being transparent with us. You want to make a game that, we all enjoy. You're telling us that this is not complete instead of just shipping it and saying, hey, this is the game. Enjoy. Like trying to sell you slop, trying to, leech you out of your money. But I would rather a game company being very transparent about, what their expectations and what they need in order to accomplish their goals and what those goals are. Like I think nowadays there's a fear that people don't want to invest in live service games because they don't know if it's going to survive. Like First Ascendant, it's kind of like sketch for a lot of people because they're like, yeah, it looks good, but is it going to be safe to buy and purchase things? Am I going to buy something and then find out that the game in a couple of months is going to shut down, and then all those goods that I spent money on, I'm not going to get access to? And I think that's a very good concern, like not good, but it's a wise concern to have, because nowadays you don't know like how many games have been shut down that people have probably spent hundreds of dollars on. Granted, that's their fault, but still, I mean, that's still a concern.
Warframe was born, a game over a decade in the making, who had faith in itself, scorned by an industry nobody else wanted to make it except for them. It released into beta on Steam in 2013 to over 20,000 players and has only continued to grow since. Over the years, I've come to realize that the vast majority of the studios that we grew up loving, the games that we grew up loving, the biggest studios and publishers that are out there, all came from very similar humble beginnings. But the vast...
And I'm gonna mention that, like, there's a reason why those companies succeed or are still succeeding, because they're still following the same principle. They're gamers for the gamers by the gamers. Like, that is something that Bungie used to be. Bungie used to be for and by gamers. Like, think Halo. Halo was around and people were playing the game, hanging out with a bunch. The developers were gamers. They were vibing with the community. They were excited for the community. Nowadays, like, it's just like Halo is just kind of drifted off into no man's sky. Destiny is kind of in the same spot. What do we got here? I'm gonna zoom you in. Why are most live service games leaning into third person perspective? In my general thought, I think it's because it sells skins. Like, there's a reason why people that do first person shooters buy probably more gun skins, is because you actually get to see it. Whereas third person, you can really just sell skins for the character because you're going to see it more. Also, I think it's a different take on shooters. I think most people are starting to get tired of just first person and they want variety. Get out of my face.
The vast majority of them forgot about it. And the ones that don't end up being the ones that are the most loved and appreciated. Look at Larian Studios. Their story is almost identical to Digital Extremes. They started off making their own games to limited success. They did work for hire for a while just to be able to keep the doors open. When that industry started to dry up and move away, they went to go make their own game in Divinity Original Sin. They danced with bankruptcy, almost losing the entire studio, but they found an audience that wanted to support it, and now look at them. Baldur's Gate 3 is heralded as one of the greatest games of all time.
And I think Baldur's Gate is heralded as the greatest because they specifically came out and said, hey, we want to make a game for the gamers. We're not here just for profit. We're here to make a game that you guys will enjoy. And that's huge. When you make a game for the consumer and you are for the consumer, you're pro-consumer, that's a good thing. Like, people are going to, one, they're going to want to invest into your game. And two, the experience overall is probably going to be better. And in that experience, it was. A lot of people heralded as one of the best games of all time, outside of like Elden Ring, which is the same thing. Literally, the creator wanted to make a good game that people can enjoy.
They blew up, as they deserve to do so. When I look around the industry right now, I see a lot of studios that are making games not because they want to make them, but because they're profit motivated.
Exactly. It's all about
purely
money.
Profit motivated. They no longer look at players as anything other than tools for making money, and that's it. Rather than looking at them for what they actually are, which is a means to be able to deliver a higher quality product, use their feedback and their information to be able to earn their money.
What's
and
that?
Then by extension, make your game even that more popular. Because when players are happy, they tend to talk about it a heck of a lot more. And I've also noticed that, games are a form of art. And without soul, there is no art. And in the case of games, I think a lot of players are starting to wake up and realize they can see it in your trailers, they can see it in your gameplay, they can see it when the soul isn't there.
He's right. If you don't see the soul, you're not going to care. And I think, like, a good example is Star Wars Outlaw. Like, you see the $100, $130 price tag, and you see this game that's like, who wanted this? Who asked for this game? And there's a lot of games that make you wonder, like, who was this for? Because it wasn't for fans of, like, Star Wars. It wasn't for, like, the main majority of the fans. It's like this niche, small population. And then they get upset that no one wants to play their game. Like, yeah, there's a reason why. Like, some games are dead on delivery because people have such a negative thought on live service games, but also even single player games. Like, looking at the trailer, if it doesn't build up hype, people are just going to assume it's going to be bad, which you could say is unfair. But with all the stinkers we've gotten, I think it's valid. It's valid to be skeptical.
There. And when they know it's there and they see it's there, they're into that game. But when they don't see it, they don't want to have anything to do with it.
Exactly.
And I think that's why we've seen a lot of games over the last few years fail. Digital Extremes started out with great intentions, to be honest with you. But that doesn't mean that they didn't make the same mistakes that many other free-to-play and live service games make time and time again, and that's with its monetization. But the difference is they learn from their mistakes.
True.
I don't think anybody can disagree with this. Recently, over the last few years, both live service and free-to-play games have permeated through every space in the entire gaming industry. Every single company wants their Fortnite, Counter-Strike, Genshin Impact, whatever it might be, and of course they would, because they draw in revenues. It would make you wonder why anybody would ever want to make another full-priced game again. But with the introduction of free-to-play live service games, we've seen year over year, month over month, players are losing ground, losing choice, and losing their money. Free-to-play has become synonymous with cutting content and player achievement and putting a price tag on it. While the gameplay itself is free, the model has incentivized developers to paywall everything in the game or put in absurd time restrictions and hurdles for players to be able to overcome.
Destiny is a perfect example of, hey guys, we're gonna put time limits. We're gonna time gate the content, so you have to come back week after week. What's that? You want to be able to play the game how you want to play it? No. What's that? You just want to play the story out? No, you play it the way we want you to play it. And that's kind of like a big problem with a lot of games. It's they want you to play how they want you to play, when a game should be focused on letting the gamer choose the path that they go. Let us be the ones to decide how fast we consume a content. It's crazy. I don't understand why. And it's very few games, by the way. Not very many games actually do time gating. It's just like Bungie and some other games. I think Diablo 4 is a good example of just releasing a season and you just have everything up front and you just get to play. They do like mid-season patches and like buffs and nerfs, and that's understandable, right? Keep your season a little interesting for the rest of it. But yeah, time gating, that's my biggest gripe about live service.
So they can try to earn anything with their own time or their own skill. Studios today are incentivized to actively harm the player experience and lower the quality of the overall product, all in the name of higher profits. Digital Extremes was incredibly nervous about getting into free-to-play because they were afraid that they were going to do it wrong, and in fact, they did. At first, they started selling power, and it wasn't the reputation that they wanted to create for themselves. At the creation of Warframe, you could double the capacity of your mod or skill tree slots in your Warframes. However, there was no way to be able to earn this in-game, and the only way that you could get it was by paying for it with real money. Early on, before the game's beta release, Digital Extremes saw the players' feedback regarding this issue and removed it and any other perceived pay-for-power microtransactions, vowing for fair monetization to be a core tenet of the studio.
Chat, no matter what you want to say, whether you like Warframe or not, imagine any other game. Imagine like Activision removing like any well, they've never done anything egregious like that. Let's be honest. As much as we want to grill Call of Duty, all their stuff is cosmetic only. But imagine a game where they sold power. Like, I cannot imagine. Like, there's obviously a bunch of gacha games out there that do exactly that. But I've never heard of anyone else like, hey, you know what? We screwed up. We don't want to be like that. We don't want to make money. And that's exactly what that means. Guys, we don't want to make money because we don't want to ruin the experience of our gamers. Because when you have a game that sells power, it's anti-gamer and more corporate BS. That's all it is. Because no real gamer wants the game to be like power to be sold in a store. Cosmetics, I think most people are fine with cosmetics. Whatever, right? You know, who's it hurting? Pay to wins, like pay to win, pay to progress. I have no MO. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they learned from that mistake. I didn't even know that was a thing that they did.
Moving forward. In that move and other changes that they made due to their deep involvement in the early foundations of their games community, they fostered a positive community spirit and gained even more support. In an interview 6 years ago with Danny O'Dwyer of No Clip Documentaries, they mentioned how difficult it was for them to be able to find any marketing or visibility because at the time, nobody wanted to touch free-to-play games. However, the positive community that they had already started to culture, the fact that they had been listening to their community, ended up catching the attention of the late great commentator Total Biscuit, who came to cover the game and catapult its popularity.
I've heard of his name, Total Biscuit. I'm going to be honest, guys. I have no idea who he is.
Popularity into the mainstream. I think that this is one of the most valuable lessons for Digital Extremes or any company to learn, and it's that good things happen to good developers, especially those who treat their players as well as Digital Extremes and listens to their feedback. Game developers large and small need...
let me stress that. That is huge. If you listen to your consumers, you listen to your community, they will stay. They will stay. They will commit to you, even if it's a rough ride, right? Warframe, obviously, one perfect example where they made some goofs, but they listened. They focused on making the game, and they didn't go backwards. Like, obviously, you could point out like 343, Diablo. They kept going forward. They've continued to make some changes, which is great. But then you have like Bungie, who just who goes forward, and then they go back on what they're doing. They go forward, then they go back, and and they're not the only ones, right? There are other games out there that have made the same mistake. Like again, let's say a wholesale game like Madden sports games. How often do those come out and people complain that it's just like copy paste garbage, and the developers do the bare minimum, even though the community has complained, hey, we're tired of having this slop. Give us something different. I don't know, but money talks. And the problem with a lot of these games is if people give their money, the developers are going to continue these bad behaviors. That's the bomb dollar.
Need to recognize that they are providing a product and service to us, not the other way around. The expectation is on them to create a fun, fair, entertaining, and valuable experience in exchange for our money. When I see game developers posting on Reddit talking about how they hate gamers because of YouTube live stream comments, or how a lead Starfield developer makes a Twitter thread saying, funny how disconnected some players are from the realities of game development, and yet they speak with complete authority. I mean, I can guess what it takes to make a Hostess Twinkie, but I don't work in the factory, so what the hell do I know, really? Not a lot.
Listen, if you have that train of thought, and I've seen people in the comment section of videos have certain thing like train of thought of this, you are not thinking of the consumer. That's the bottom dollar. It is not the consumer's job to pay your bills. It is not the consumer's job to take whatever slop you throw out. If we eat a Twinkie and it tastes like crap, the consumer has a right to complain and give criticism about the product. Your job is to make a product that the consumer wants. That's the bottom dollar. Am I wrong, chat? I can't see you right now, but we'll get to going down and have some questions and answers in a minute. But let's be honest. It is not the consumer's job to consume what you're trying to sell. It is your job to sell to the consumer, which if you are not doing a good job at selling what the consumer wants, and you're actively attacking your consumer, you're not going to have a lot of support. That's what I don't understand about game developers nowadays is that they're so willing to attack the people that should be buying their product. Like it's almost a expectation that we make this game, you have to buy it or like it. You can't criticize the product. You can't expect more. And I think anyone that's willing to just eat slop does not respect themselves and their purchase. Like, it is your money. You should have a right to speak about the quality of the product you're purchasing. Like, you don't go and buy a car and you drive off the lot and then you find out that the brakes don't work. And then you sit there and like, you know what? This is fine. I'm not going to complain about this. No, you're going to be like, fix this. I want a better product than what I got. The dealership has no right to say, well, we sold this to you and it was made the way it is, and you really should just not. Do you make vehicles? How do you know it should have brakes? Huh? Do you make vehicles? Should I don't. Are you a mechanic? Like, how do you know? Like, it should be a finished product. It should be a good product. It should be what I paid for. I don't know. Like, people make excuses for developers, and then obviously it has empowered developers to be like this guy and be a douche canoe. Oops.
And neither of these opinions that these people have are in the minority of opinions. With what authority do players speak? With their money. They are your paying customers. Customers. While players may not know exactly how to voice their concerns, and oftentimes will do it in the wrong way, you still should be listening to them because they are telling you that something is wrong with your game. And at the end of the day...
And I think that's very important, right? I think if you are making death threats, you're a piece of crap, right? Like, but I would guess, and I would absolutely say that the proportion and percentage of people that make nasty death threats and like overly egregious things are in the minority. And one thing that I have found to be really obnoxious and annoying about developers is that they use these very small populations as an excuse to ignore the player base or the community or the consumer. And they like to say, well, we've been getting death threats, and so that's why we're not acknowledging you guys, or we're not talking to you guys. We're not being transparent. It's because we've been getting death threats. And yes, I agree that is not something that should ever be acceptable. But more often than not, it has become more of an excuse than an actual reality. And I just, it's annoying.
All they want is a better product, which only serves to make you more money in the end. We've seen developers stray from the side of players. However, how many developers have you seen remove a microtransaction from their game because players were using it too much? When Warframe introduced colors for their pet skins, they didn't realize that they had inadvertently created a gambling mechanic where players were trying to search for the rarest skin colors and the combinations that they wanted. DE saw that a player had rolled his pet's color 200 times and their stomach sank. Within a day and a half, they had removed the mechanic from the game and reworked it without the need for player feedback.
Wait, what you're saying is DE had a gamba in their game and they were getting free money? They had free money and they decided to remove it? Oh my God, EA is rolling in their non-existent graves. Holy smokes, don't tell Ubisoft and EA and all these other games. Hell, don't even tell Bungie. They're like, BRB, tell us how'd you do that? We want that cheat code to get money in our game. Holy smokes.
The spirit of that can be found throughout the entire game. As of a recent update, now everything in the game, just about everything in the game, is earnable in-game with very few outliers.
True. It is true.
Warframe uses platinum as its in-game premium currency, and it's fully tradable. Players can go out, farm valuable resources, mods, weapons, and Warframe blueprints, and then trade with other players without ever even spending a dime. You would think that this is
I have played over 1,000 hours of this game. I can confirm. You truly can play Warframe, never spend a dime. In fact, you can make money. Not like, obviously, actual money, but you can make in-game money doing absolutely nothing but playing the game. You can farm really high-end like blueprints and things that people really want. You can target farm that stuff and then go right behind and sell it to actual players for their in-game currency. And they're like, obviously you can buy the in-game currency real cash. You can buy that currency and then you can turn around, like after you sell the stuff, you get the currency. You can use that to buy other skins. You can buy actual guns. You can buy other Warframes like characters, and you don't have to spend any money. It is such a fantastic economy. Like Bungie and Destiny, they talk about the economy, but there is no economy. When I think of economy, I think of Warframe, where there's trading, there's buying, there's selling. There is a true blue interaction with the player base, and it's not egregious. It's fair, it's balanced, and heck, a lot of the time, there's people out there that are willing to help new players. They're willing to trade these sought after items that are expensive, or maybe they're not expensive. Maybe they're new player friendly guns that they don't need anymore. Like, hey, I got you here. Someone in chat's like, hey, I'm looking for this. I don't have a lot of plat. Like, I've not been playing a lot. And there's usually really nice people in the community that are like, hey, I'm going to hook you up. Let's trade. I'm going to give it to you for free. Let me help you. Like, imagine that if we had that in Destiny. Obviously, it would kill a lot of the farm in this game, but imagine what a boost to the community it could be if new players were benefiting from older players having guns or things that they didn't need anymore. Like, if I could give half my crafted guns away to someone else, because half of them I don't even use, I would give it to all the new players so they can have new things to play.
Crap behind some type of end game progression or something, right? No, you can start doing this within the first 15 to 20 hours of playing the game. I was already trading items with other players and stockpiling currency from the minute that I had started. While players still have the option to buy anything that they want from the game's in-game shop, all of those things, or at least the vast majority of them outside of cosmetics and color palettes, can be earned in-game. So
the only thing that you can't do is what they call Tenogen, where it's people in the community actually make skins that DE then sells on the Steam workshop, and you pay real money for it. You can't do anything, but it supports the people that literally help make the skins. Like, you're paying cash, and the people that made a skin get paid for it. Like, it's really cool. Like, imagine if Destiny, all these fan art of different weapon skins that the fans have made, or even in Halo, or even in Diablo. Imagine if the developers actually did something like Warframe. They would make more money, and they would have more community support.
So, Mr. YouTuber, that means that Warframe must have the most difficult and high-end equipment behind paywalls or something, right? It has to be insanely difficult to get. No. The pinnacle Warframes and weapons are called primes. You can earn these by cracking relics, and you get relics constantly while you're playing the game. When you go,
anyone who's ever played the First Ascendant, this is where they got the idea from. So I would argue, I think the chances are more balanced in Warframe than the First Ascendant, but the First Ascendant is pretty much a second game behind Warframe when it comes to chasing things.
To do these missions to crack the relics, you're playing with 4 players, and all 4 of you can choose to use the exact same relic, which would then increase your chances of being able to get what you wanted, because everybody can choose from everyone else's rewards. Meaning that even if you're in a party that isn't coordinated and you're all running different relics, if you don't get what you want out of yours, you can just get a copy of somebody else's thing if it's more valuable. You can choose to get whatever you want. Every weapon, every frame, companion, and otherwise is at your fingertips. You can earn your way through Warframe without ever even spending a dime, and many players have.
Zero.
There is no time wasting in Warframe. And what's even more crazier is that, adding to this absurdity, they show players how not to spend money within their premium shop. If you go to their premium shop and look at any of the items available in it, next to every item, it tells you how to go earn that item in-game rather than spending.
Yeah, it's amazing. They tell you how to get material. They tell you what to spend. They tell you, hey, if you'd rather just get there's guns you can buy out of the shop, or you can go farm a mission or farm a boss to get it, to unlock it. They tell you that. Now, obviously, First Ascendant kind of does that too. Oh, I just blew myself up. First Ascendant does that too, but not to the extent, the fact that they actually sell the guns in the store. It's crazy how well this game, it tells you how to play the game. Now, obviously, there's some issues with the modding and stuff like that they could improve upon. But overall, they do a really good job of telling you how to play the game.
Money. They teach players how not to spend money in their shop. But that doesn't mean that players don't support the game. In fact, they do quite a lot, because by making things so accessible, giving massive discounts on their currency and things like that, being able to just get all the things that you want in the game by playing it, players just want to spend money on the game. Because
I'm going to be honest, I've spent over $600 in Warframe. I'm not ashamed. When I was in college, I got into Warframe and I spent $600. Literally, I spent, not one time, right? This is over, I've calculated how much I've spent over several years. And I just did it because I wanted to support the game. Every content update of this game is free. There's no expansions. There's no seasonal bundles. There's no dungeon keys. There's no $30 skins you have to spend real money on. You can't spend in-game money. Like I said, you can earn all the platinum and buy things from the store, so you can do everything in-game. That's huge. I'm going to spend money on a game that respects me, and Warframe does a fantastic job of that.
Want to support it because they love the game so much, not because they feel like they need to. Imagine that. Imagine a world in which the players are not spending money on a game because they need to overcome some fabricated barrier that's put in place, and if they spend money, they're going to be able to get through it faster or get through it at all. No, instead, they're spending money because they actually want to support the game. They just are enjoying themselves
Absolutely.
And want to spend the money. Now, mind you, some of this is definitely driven by convenience, but the vast majority of players just love the game and want to support it. And that's not to say that there aren't areas worth criticizing. I'm still not a fan of the fact of them having 12 to 72 hour crafting timers on weapons.
First Ascendant is the exact same way, by the way. They literally First Ascendant took this exactly from Warframe because Warframe is just as bad.
In Warframes, it's just too much. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just too much. And also, there's a big limitation on the amount of weapon and Warframe slots, inventory slots that are available early on for players. That's something that in general just needs to get fixed. But the thing is that the longer you play the game, the less those things become an issue because you have so many other things that you're working on, leveling up, playing as, farming for, while all these other things are building in the background that you really don't even notice it all that much. And while there's room for improvement, this is largely the most ethical live service game I've ever seen monetized. And I don't think...
I think the second, like, the economy and everything is very fair. I think the second most fair is Fortnite. I know people love hating on Fortnite, but literally it's a $10 battle pass that then you get currency that you can use to buy the next battle pass. Like, you can chain battle passes, and then they have a free, like, they obviously stole Forge from Halo, but they have their own Forge. They have custom games like Halo does. They have Lego now. They have the race car mode. They have Rock Band. I heard they're getting Fall Guys in it now. Like, and it's all free. And the skins aren't even egregious. The skins in Fortnite are like $10. So I would argue that Fortnite is the second most fair live service game out there. And for the quality and content that you get, the fact that you could literally play that game 100% free and you get like a taste of every other game, a race car game, you get a little flavor of that. You ever want to play Minecraft, you can play the Lego version. It's free. You ever want to play Rock Band, they've got something like that. Fall Guys, they've got that. Like, even though Fall Guys is already free. But you understand what I'm talking about. Like, there are good examples outside of just Warframe of live service games that are good. It's just you've got greedy companies that see this infinite print machine and they full send it. And that's why they die.
Any other game wants to try to compete on those terms. They definitely don't want to compete on their content. Warframe's first turning point came when the game released on Steam, which marked a critical success and provided the studio with the necessary resources to be able to continue to support and develop the game. Unlike competitive shooters that can maintain an audience with minimal updates, Warframe faced the challenge of sustaining interest in a PvE-centric game, which is far more difficult. To overcome this, Digital Extremes heavily leaned on the experienced development team who had weathered the storm through the toughest times and possessed the deep institutional knowledge that was necessary to make the game successful. If it wasn't for the fact that they held on to their employees when the game and the studio was facing its closure, they likely would have never been able to make the game the success that it is today.
And those employees probably stuck with them because the company respected the employees. Like, people will be your ride or dies if you respect them. People will take a chance on you if you respect them, if you actually care about them. Like, that's crazy. When you actually respect developers, they're going to want to stay. It's crazy. I know. But when you're throwing them out the door like they're like trash, they're replaceable trash, and you have half your team in fear that, am I going to be the next guy to be fired? Yeah, that's not going to make them want to stick around very long.
In the years following the game's release on Steam, Warframe saw a rapid expansion in content. The studio introduced clans, player hubs, a plethora of new weapons and Warframes, and diverse gameplay elements like open world areas, vehicles, and space combat. But the most significant shift in the game's identity came with the release of The Second Dream, a cinematic quest that redefined Warframe as a game. This quest introduced fully voice-acted, high-quality cinematic experiences with intricate writing and storytelling that elevated the game from a compelling free-to-play title to a truly exceptional experience. No longer was Warframe just a free-to-play game, it was just a great game that happened to be free-to-play. Digital Extremes continued to push boundaries with subsequent updates, including the new war, Whispers in the Walls, and the upcoming major update, Warframe 1999. These expansions...
Like I said, all these expansions, free. You don't have to pay for them. They're free. You literally just download the update and you play the game. There is no feeling like, oh, well, I have to spend $300 to feel like I'm caught up with everyone else. Like Destiny, How much money do you have to spend to get caught up on the story to feel like I can be involved? A lot. You have to spend a lot of money. And you're also missing on context as well. Like Warframe, whatever content they put in, they don't remove it. Whatever they put in stays around, so you can play, you can replay the missions, you can replay all the content. Every time they do an update, it stays. They don't content vaults or seasonal sunset or remove anything except for maybe very specific things. And they have rotating events just like Destiny does. But they don't actually remove the content. It's like it's there.
Actions demonstrate a level of writing, character development, and cinematic quality that's typically associated with AAA blockbuster titles and reflect nothing of what we've seen in typical free-to-play games. The studio's ambition to deliver high-end content remained evident with every release, further increasing the game's reputation among players both new and old. That's what's made the Warframe that we have today. One of the systems I was the most shocked by was at one point I unlocked what I can best describe as Sea of Thieves in space.
Oh, yeah.
You get a Railjack, a fully customizable ship that you can upgrade. It has multiple weapons that are controlled by other players in co-op. You hire NPCs.
This right here is called Railjack. If I wish more games did space like or air battles like Railjack. Like I wish more games, especially like live service, would experiment like Destiny, Halo. They would do actual air fights, not like obviously they're multiplayer and like Halo. You obviously have like banshees and flying vehicles, but I'm talking about in the actual game mode of fight and flight. I wish after playing Halo Reach, when there's a mission where you're in outer space and you're flying like an air jet and you're just sitting there fighting the Covenant, that was magical. And we have yet to really see that until like Warframe. We have yet to have anything else that matches that. I think there's like another game like Starfield that kind of does that. I think No Man's Sky does that, but I want to see like live service games do it.
Seas to manage the ship. You fight other ships. You can board other ships, steal
really
other
fun.
ships, and raid enemy bases. While the feature didn't land well on release and it had its issues, what is available today is an absolute blast to play.
They've
and it
improved.
feels
They
like
took
it's
feedback.
completely native to the game and like it could have been there from the start. In the landscape of live service and free-to-play games, many developers opt for the safe approach, focusing on incremental updates and minor changes rather than undertaking any significant overhaul. This safe strategy often results in steady, gradual improvements, but most major additions and transformative changes end up being locked behind paid expansions, premium content, and microtransactions.
Destiny.
Typically, free-to-play games and live service games will introduce minor tweaks, seasonal updates, and limited time offers to try
Diablo
to keep
4.
players engaged.
Though, granted, new
Warframe
season's
does
better.
the exact same thing. They aren't strangers to making big splashes with major updates, and all the while, they're not charging the players a
I would say Diablo 4 has done like this season and the past season, they have listened to the community, and they're another example of like turning the ship around. Like they actually have put some effort into making the game better. Now you could argue they should have done that from the beginning. Again, that's always an argument on its own, but I will give credit where credit's due when they're going forward and not backwards. And most of the time, it's hard to get a gaming company that's willing to keep going forward and not backwards.
dime. Other games with standard offerings can sometimes refresh the experience and provide new incentives to be able to log in, but they rarely bring the wide sweeping changes that might significantly alter the gameplay or narrative, making the game overall feel more stale. I'll give kudos to games like Fortnite, who often radically change their map, put in new modes, and give more ways for players to be able to express themselves in games, like even creating their own games within Fortnite. However, the vast majority of games don't do this, and in combination with that lack of risk, they often let go of the developers that got them to where they are in the first place.
Again, like I said, if you respect your developers, you don't treat them like trash, they will stay and they will commit to you. And that's something that we're not seeing a lot of. We're seeing them being tossed aside. People are afraid they're going to lose their job. There's no guarantee. Like there's certain companies I wouldn't even want to even take a chance to be a part of, to be honest. And I would say DE is definitely a safer one.
Ignoring the players that got them to where they are in the first place. And as a result, they hollow out their experience, leaving them with nowhere to go. There's too much focus on monetization, and it's leading to a disparity between the expectations of the player and the financial outlook of the developer. Today, we have developers that are understaffed, underpaid, under a lot of pressure, under-delivering to their audience, while for some odd reason, the company is still expecting more money. You have CEOs that are out there projecting growing profit without investing in growing content. And their expectation is because you're playing, then you must be paying, and I'm sick of it. Look, just recently I saw with Apex Legends, the big drama.
Again, the expectation that the consumer needs to support the developer. The expectation that what we put out there, you have to like. Oh, you're playing our game? You need to give us money. Listen, if it's good and you're respecting my time and you're respecting me, I'll give you some money. I have no problems. I've given Warframe a lot of my money. They earned it. They deserved it. And there is a key thing that he's not mentioning, and I'm hoping he mentions it. If not, then I'm also going to throw it in there. But we still got some time to go in, so let's keep listening to the movie.
Around it. Basically, long story short, developer goes in and makes it where you can no longer earn the next battle pass by completing the last battle pass, where previously you were able to. And they made these changes, gaslighting the players, saying that it's because we're trying to deliver you guys a more valuable experience. We're doing it because we're trying to grow the game, and we're giving you guys more value.
Wow, I've heard that before. Bungie saying, hey, all these microtransactions go to these secret missions, these special missions that we have to, you're funding that. What happened to that, Chief?
Value, that's really what it is. When anybody with any base level of intelligence can see how insulting it is to say something like that when it's so transparently not that. And they're not.
And that's another thing. Developers treat their consumers like they're stupid. That's a big thing. The developers will treat consumers like you're stupid. And I'm not going to respect anyone that does.
Not the only developer doing things like that. You see it across the board. So many developers that are making minor changes to their game, but all of their focus is on their monetization. How else they can shift and move things around to make it where they can make more money and you get less out of playing the game.
Bungie.
And in that,
Perfect
the only
examples.
thing that you're serving to do is make an audience that isn't loyal to you, that is just waiting, frothing at the mouth at the chance to be able to jump onto the next game and get as far away from you as they possibly can. Sure, they're playing your game right now. Sure, it's popular right now, but that's because they don't really have another option, and there's nothing else right now that's that hot. So once there is something that hot that comes out, you're done. That's it. Players are a valuable resource, and you need to value them. They provide you with everything that you need to be successful, both creatively and financially. And if you use them the appropriate way, you can be huge, you can be massive. And while that's not the truth for every single game, because every single game is different, they have a different audience, they have a different use case, not everybody plays the same kind of games. When you value them, they keep you afloat. They help you grow. And in the case of Digital Extremes and Warframe, I don't think that there's another developer that's out there that appreciates their audience the same way or does the same things that Digital Extremes does with their audience. Except for maybe Larian Studios. Why did you guys have to go and create a community YouTube channel? And even more so, why am I not in it? I get it, like Duality and Co-Carnage are really cool, but like I made a lot of videos on Baldur's Gate.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Come on, man. Initially, I had wondered how Warframe was able to hold on.
All right, I'm gonna pause because he mentioned the community and respecting the community. I want you guys to have some real insight. These developers, DE has monthly live streams where they get on and they play the game. They do all different parts of the game. They just play the game and they talk to chat. Like they do their big developer, like this is what we have on the horizon. Like here's transparency. This is what we're working on. This is what you have to look forward. They have those live streams, but they also have monthly live streams where they just play the game and talk to chats. Like they are engaged. They are actively engaged with their community. They do the TennoCon, which I know there used to be like Guardian Con and it's changed something. It's been changed. but DE does Guardian Con, where they have cosplay and like direct interaction. Like I remember playing during COVID, and they had a live stream, and they had a in-game demo of one of the game, the new updates that they were making. So they're showing all the new models of new characters that we would interact with in one of the towers, and we got to like look around at the weapons. Like it was a fun and really cool event, and it felt like the community was completely involved. It felt fun. And DE does a really good job at making everyone feel involved. And I wish more developers did it. Like Bungie back in the day used to do that. They used to do cool little live streams, not to the extent that DE does, but they used to do little live streams, and they would show off all the different content. But as you can tell, that they only do live streams as like an emergency live stream because, oh, our company is dying or our game is dying, so we need to quickly try to bring players back into the game. And I don't think that's acceptable. So what he didn't tell you is that DE is thoroughly engaged, actively communicating and talking to their community. It is impressive. After all these years, they have kept this up, and we need more of it.
On to such a consistent player base for so long.
From other
Regardless
games.
of good or bad updates, new games, or financial declines, their core audience has stayed rock solid for over a decade now, and in and of itself, that is a feat that very few games have accomplished. It wasn't until I started streaming my experience over on Twitch, playing the game for the very first time, that I was exposed to the game's community, and in that, I noticed how positive they are. An eerily similar experience I had with Final Fantasy XIV, but altogether completely different. Many players have been.
And I will tell you right now, you go to play, you talk to anyone about Halo, they're divided. If you talk about Bungie, they're divided. There's the people that have, feedback and criticism. There are people that say there's nothing wrong with the game. And there's people saying, oh, you can't play this game in this way. No, you can't play this game in this way. And they're always like tearing each other apart. I mean, obviously, I've given feedback about certain parts of different communities, both Halo and Destiny. But Warframe, I mean, they do give criticism, but the community is, like I said, you will see people in the chat asking if anyone can help them. They're a new player, if they've got anything they can help, and people are willing to donate and trade them like starter guns or help them get set up, give them some mods. Like the community is very inclusive, whereas in like Destiny, there are so many people in the community that don't feel like they're included and feel like they're being shunned. Whether that you think that's true or not, that's obviously up to you and your interpretation. But like I said, there's a lot of people in the Warframe community that are very inclusive.
Been playing the game since alpha. They've unlocked everything
and
in the game.
You don't have to pay a YouTuber.
Beaten the game, logging thousands of hours. However, they are still logging in regularly, even daily.
True.
They are out there guiding new players and doing things that they've done thousands of times because they love the game that much. And I was curious where that comes from.
It's not just me.
Well, sure, the game has regular updates, new content, new weapons, and new Warframes. I couldn't see how Warframe could become somebody's daily driver until I saw how Digital Extremes engages with their community. Oftentimes, developers lay silent between content releases and major updates. They put their head in the sand, they let a couple people go out and respond or repost on Twitter, and only come out of hibernation to make promotional content to drive up interest around the next big update or
Bungie, Halo. Those are like the two examples I could go into because they're just like the perfect examples of, hey guys, here's a stream. Hey guys, here's a little trailer. Hey guys. Whereas like Warframe, they're, like I said, they do monthly live streams to really communicate with the chat.
Major change. In that time of silence, I think it makes it feel like updates are further apart than they actually are. Players aren't engaged, and when they aren't engaged, they lose interest. And DE makes it really hard for you not to feel engaged as they support their community like they're content creators rather than game developers. every single week.
Boy, isn't that something. He said it, not me.
They go live on YouTube and Twitch to do something they call a dev short, where Steve Sinclair, the CEO of Digital Extremes,
This right here, by the way, she's hot.
together with Rebecca Ford, the once community manager and now creative director of Warframe, just talk to
she's
the
the
players
director.
for 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'll reiterate, people who stuck around. She's the director of Warframe.